Hello, I'm Ryan Zuidema, your Chief of Police. I'm coming to you today to discuss some of the concerns and feedback you provided to us as a department over the last couple of weeks. I want you to know we are listening. We've met with several individuals and groups over that time. We've heard what you have to say. We want to continue to hear what you have to say and want you to know we are listening. I'll be discussing some of the concepts I'm about to mention a little more in detail on Tuesday night at 7:30 in front of Lynchburg City Council. So a couple of the issues I'd like to talk to you about. Training. There have been a lot of questions about what type of training we provide our officers, how often, how frequent, what topics, things like that. To touch on that real quick, our officers receive about 6 months of training in the police academy before they ever hit the street. And then once they are out on the road, they're with a training officer for about 3 months. During the time in the academy and then subsequent to that, as well as throughout their careers, they are always getting training. They're required by state law to have 40 hours of training every 2 weeks after they're out of the academy. It covers topics like verbal judo, fair and impartial policing, where we discuss implicit biases, de-escalation training, among with many, many more that I'll hopefully touch on a little more Tuesday evening. I also want to tell you that we're taking other steps to try and get ahead of some of the challenges in our community. One of the challenges we face is mental health. Obviously, there's a great need for mental health services in our community. We just recently applied for a grant in collaboration with Horizon Behavioral Health. That grant, if we are awarded that, will allow us to put a mental health clinician in a police car with our officers to respond to those calls where we have mental health consumers in need. That'll be hopefully a much better product and much more efficient for those who need those services. One of the other concerns we've heard is there's a lot of talk about the militia showing up in Lynchburg during the events that took place at the area of 5th and Federal. We've addressed this several times through the media and several times to groups and individuals, but I just want to clarify again because we still get some inquiries, even as recently as a few days ago. That is not something where we invited the militia into our community. They were invited by a local business owner to be on private property there. We did ask those individuals to stay inside that business several times. We're going to continue to review those events. There's a ton of video coverage and footage of that is out there being shared with us and some that we're able to obtain. And obviously the other question is, are any of those folks going to be charged? Regardless of whether they're militia members or not, if we determine that folks were committing criminal activity as a part of what turned into riotous behavior, we will certainly address those appropriately. Two of the big issues we've heard a lot about are accountability and transparency, and those are issues that we are absolutely committed to addressing and have been addressing for many years here at the Lynchburg Police Department. We want to make sure our officers are held accountable. We've got to remember our officers are human beings, just like you and me. They may make mistakes from time to time. Overwhelmingly, they provide great service to our community. If they do make a mistake, we're absolutely going to hold them accountable. We also look to address serious issues like things of use of force involving officer-involved shootings. Those incidents for many years have been investigated by the Virginia State Police at our request. We want to make sure an outside agency is looking at that through a very clear lens. There's also been talks about decertification. That is something we absolutely support for officers who step across the line. If there are officers who have ethical issues or integrity issues, that's not someone we want to fire from our department only to then go work at another department. So that's something we certainly would support, making sure that those things are tracked appropriately. So again, the transparency piece is something we've been doing for many, many years. And some of the examples I can give you is, we've had our policies and procedures online since about 2017. We instituted body-worn cameras for all of our officers beginning in 2016. And as far back as 2015, we formed a community policing advisory group. And that group gets together and they discuss critical issues that our officers are involved in, critical incidents. They help us review policy, and they do several other things for us to address community concerns. We hope to continue to use that group as we move forward. A lot of you have had concerns on how we deal with complaints and use of force, and we think that vehicle, the Community Policing Advisory Group, is a great way to address those concerns, to make sure our community is engaged and involved with our transparency as well as our accountability. We've also been reporting the required information to the FBI on certain uses of force that they began doing back in 2019, in the early parts of 2019. A recent report showed only about 40% of law enforcement agencies voluntarily provided that information. We were one of those groups. We've also had questions about 21st century policing and the concepts that are in that document. That's a several-year-old document that we instituted a lot of the concepts out of that. So the overwhelming majority of that we're already doing here, but we are still reevaluating some of those things to see, can we do them better? So we'll discuss some more of that again Tuesday night at City Council. We've been committed to community policing and the philosophy of community policing for many years at the LPD. And community policing is absolutely us being out in the community, engaging our community and building those relationships, which is so important and even more important in today's day and age. On the forefront of that is our community action team. They do great work in the community. They're able to go out and address issues that an average patrol officer just doesn't have time in their shift to do. They can put sometimes hours and days into a project or a problem area to make sure we're helping our community feel safe. We continue to do all those things, and we build relationships as we do them. And it is so important for us to continue to build those relationships. We want our officers to know you on a first name basis, and we want you to know our officers on a first name basis. That's how we're going to make progress as a community to get through this. One of the other questions we're asked a lot about is, what do we do to hire our officers? What do they go through? What's the process for that? So believe it or not, we only hire about 2 to 3% of the people that apply to be Lynchburg police officers. We are very picky and choosy about who we take. And we do that for a reason, because ultimately those folks are going to be the ones that serve you as our residents here in Lynchburg. They go through polygraph background, they go through regular background investigations, they go through everything from psychological evaluations as well as physical evaluations. We want to make sure those officers are best suited to provide you the services you deserve. We debrief critical incidents. Anytime our officers are involved in a critical incident, we debrief those to make sure that they are still ready to go for the next time. Those things can be very, very stressful, so it's important that we make sure they get the services they need. And along those lines, our officers are provided with mental wellness or mental health checks once a year. We make sure our officers go and see a professional person in that arena to make sure they're able to deal with and cope with all the things that they see and deal in this job, which can be very, very traumatic at times. Lastly, recruiting. This is a call to action, quite honestly. To everybody that has a chance to watch this video or tell somebody about it, we need your help. We want to reflect the diverse fabric of our community, and we can only do that with your assistance. We do everything we can to recruit, but we need more help from all of you. If everybody watching this could just get one person and send them our way that they would feel comfortable with being an officer that showed up on their front door to answer a call at their residence, that would help us a real, real long way. So in closing, we are committed to being your partners, to being your protectors here in Lynchburg. We are so grateful for the support we get from you, and we promise and are committed to making sure we do everything we can to be as transparent and accountable to you, our residents. Thank you.